Hi, it's Tim from Toy Tinker Tim, and this episode I'm taking a look at a Super 7 Ultimate Mars Attacks Martian figure. Typically in the past, I'll take a look at a lot of vintage toys here on the channel. 70s, 80s, 90s. I had some from 2000, some going back to 1930s. So this is a very different episode here, but it's focusing on a very cool action figure. It's in the line of something that I have a personal interest in, going from the artists involved in the creation of the original cards, the artwork from 1962, which this figure is based off of. So be taking a look here at the figure from Super 7, but also the very cool vintage artwork that was on those 1962 cards from Topps. One of my favorite artists, Norman Saunders, whose artwork, his paintings that really made it a standout, timeless thing, but so many creative people involved in bringing those cards into reality. So, cool episode. Let's take a look. So this figure I ordered directly from Super 7. So the packaging, the double wrapping there, the box in the plastic sealed, making it excellent condition displayability. The thing for me personally, however, is that I prefer to take the figures out of the box. And I suppose if you wanted, you would just buy one to keep in the box and one for display, but don't have those kind of funds. So for me, opening it up to have and to handle and to display that way is more important. One of the things they do make clear on the box itself is it's an adult collectible. Don't hand it off to your kids, ages 14 and older for that, but super great graphics on the box. They get into the origin story, the Mars attacks from the Topps cards, the Martian invasion, which is what this one is about. Number 1, the invasion begins. So hopefully there will be some other Ultimates versions of the figures coming out. Like to see some other things along this line. The tray the figure is packed in is pretty sturdy. It's nicely arranged accessories for the figure. The figure is held into place by a transparent band into the vacuum formed tray. The accessories are held into place in the tray simply by design of pressure points. They're held in by that pressure fit, so reducing the need of more packaging bands or small elastic pieces. The hands wrist pegs are tight, but not fragile feeling, like it's going to just snap off when removing or putting into the wrist joints. So these figures and accessories, they're all based off of the 62 Topps cards. Not from the movie 1996 there with Tim Burton of Mars Attacks. This goes back to the roots and the origins of the storyline and the artwork. Figure has a nice mix of materials here between the flexible and more rigid. I think I had mentioned earlier, I prefer to take items out of the box. And this figure has so much detail and articulation. It just seems like it would be a shame not to take it out and to pose it. So the thing that sets these apart here with Super 7 is that their ultimates are higher detail. There's more sculpting and definitely more articulation. You might see on the red tank here on the back, there's some different kind of splotchy red colors there, which I imagine are from in production factory paint touch-up where things might have gotten scratched or nicked. So there is a difference in the paint color and uniformity of that as a result. There's so much sculpted in detail here on the head, and there's a lot happening there. With that bulbous brain, the jaw articulation, and all the detail in the painting as well. The joint articulation is tight. It's holding all the poses well. On the figure, you have articulation at the ankles, the knees. They bend, they swivel. The sculpted details don't just end at the joint areas, they extend into the pivot area. The hips are on a ball joint and they are notched at the inner thigh area, increasing that posability. The elbow is also on a swivel and bend joint, allowing proper aim with their weaponry there. The tubes and tank here at the torso here, they're not just well sculpted, but it's a great use of mixed materials. The painting scheme keeps a uniform look despite the different types of material. The tubes are very flexible and rubbery. It all blends in really well. The red tanks on the back have sculpted in notches, not just simply painted on lines. Here, the Martian space pistol. There's nice tight painting details on the space gun. You know, it's molded in a semi-rigid vinyl type of plastic. That delicate ramp piece over the barrel is a nice feature. You consider the detail in the painting, the 3 silver rings on the barrel. It's very cleanly done, so you can see what makes this an Ultimates figure. The rifle as well has a good amount of both sculpted and painted details. The front grip moves and the accent ramp over the top of the rifle, tight painting job as well there. There's a lot of effort and attention to detail on these accessories. No corners cut in production, not just all the effort, production money spent on the figure, but throughout all the parts and accessories. The removable helmet, it's thin, it's clear. There's no swirls in the plastic. It's tapered from the bulbous top, narrowed down to fit nicely into the collar area on the Martian figure. It's nicely trimmed. There's no production scratches or marks in the helmet. So the attention to detail in both sculpting and painting on this figure is very nice. If you're a fan of the Mars Attacks artwork, the 1962 tops original artwork that was done, or even the later Tim Burton film, it's a nice way to have a physical item of that in hand and to display and pose. The multiple hands included with the figure in a variety of poses, they all maintain an equal amount of sculpting and painting detail. It's not just a molded in color. This metallic, somewhat greenish color to the fingers, varying from the other green of the hand. I made reference to this earlier, but I didn't have that hold my breath, that something is going to break when changing hands on the figure. I'm just always very careful when handling items, but there is a sense of more stability here with these parts. You go back to the time that these cards and the art were created. The Martians have a cross between War of the Worlds, inspired by This Island Earth, the large-brained aliens, and of course the Weird Science cover here by Wally Wood. And the focus too was that each of the cards will tell a story. So now I'm getting into the origins of the Mars Attacks line. I have a Zena Saunders signed art chase card here that came out in later years, but Zena is the daughter of Norman Saunders, and she also created artwork for the later series cards for Mars Attacks for Topps. In the sketches and the concepts, they had Wally Wood and Bob Powell working out these things, the original sketches. Then going into final artwork, painter primary, Norman Saunders. His great illustration work, often seen previously in the pulps, carried over greatly onto these cards here. You also had Maurice Bloomfeld and Jeffrey Biggs involved as painters as well. So I'm wanting to put together a custom display base for my figure because I want it to display it a little more properly to me than just having it stand on the shelf. The figure stands solid on its own. It's not shaky. I just want that added element for it to stand on, either on a desk or a shelf. So I'm starting with a generic resin base. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed with this. There are so many air pockets and imperfections in the molding, the casting here. So this is one that I'm not putting in a link for this base. I can't recommend it. You could just use this style of a neutral gray base as it is, but I'm wanting to customize it. It's for me to convey and emphasize the destruction around our Martian invader here. I'm using my Humbrol brand model filler to patch it up, work in all those imperfections here before I start to paint and customize it. So I'm starting with washes of various acrylic paints to lay in some contrast and some more just general coloring. No real details at this stage. So after I've laid those in and let it dry, I'm using pastels, and I'm applying that with cotton swabs and brushes to get in some more defined color to that debris that will be lying around our Martian soldier here. So I've stood the figure on the base to get an idea of where to have it positioned, and then I made some pencil marks near the heel areas. So I'm using the size of the molded in recesses in the heels of this figure. I've got a polystyrene dowel here that fits in tightly into that, and I'll cut and trim sections of that to form pegs and mount those into the base. So I've drilled in some holes into the base. I've trimmed down the dowel to a proper length to both fit into the recess of the base and extend up into the heels of the figure. So I'm using a fast setting instant glue here, putting drops of that into the recess and then glue the pegs in and then letting that stand for several hours. Just make sure the pegs are straight for best results. A clear dull coat protective spray over the base, and it's good to go. Like I mentioned, you could use a similar base in its default gray color with a black stain, but in the comparison in the before and after of the base, for me, I just personally prefer dressing it up a bit. There we go. There's the package deal I created for my Super 7 Ultimates Mars Attacks figure. That's it. That's my look here. So the figure, super detailed, making the custom display stand here for him. So let me know what you think. It's not a vintage toy, but it's definitely a very cool collectible. Again, it's something more for me personally along my interests of the original Mars Attacks, the Martians, the cards, the artwork. Just let me know in the comments what you think. I guess also let me know if something more along this line of specialty figures is something you would want to see more of here on Toy Tinker Tim. So in the meantime, hit the subscribe so you can get notifications for new episodes, get a little deeper information on the episodes, background details on things by clicking to sign up to become a behind the scenes member here for the channel. And as always, thanks for watching Toy Tinker Tim.